Chris Roberts.
And I'm Aaron Roberts.
And together we're Roberts Squared.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another week of BlastCast. And once again, with me, as always, is my bastion of common sense, Lightning Dragon. And that was a really great opening on Around the Verse this week. The two brothers, back to back, side to side, ready to take on the universe together. Very funny. I like that a lot. What'd you think of the opening animation on that?
I thought it was awesome. It was cheesy in the best way.
It was cheesy in the best way. Exactly. Awesome stuff. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to cover some general topics real quick and kind of get into something. We want to kind of cover something a bit more topical this week. Talk a little bit about the PvP and PvE community. There's still a lot of arguments on the forum boards about that. People are passionate about these subjects, and I think this is one that needs to be addressed again if we haven't done it already.
But there was one thing we wanted to cover before we got into the other stuff, because I'm sure everyone is a bit annoyed at what's going on with the
3.0?
Yes, 3.0 delays.
I'm good at guessing these things. Well, according to what I'm seeing on the production schedule, that as early as tomorrow, Evocati will be going into testing for 3.0, and I hope that is actually the case. I'm really looking forward to getting my hands in there and, as I said, falling through a planet. But the truth of the matter is that I'm a little... I doubt that it's going to be out tomorrow, and I'd love to be wrong, but I don't know. I mean, we haven't heard hide nor hair, and I would have expected to hear something on Monday along the lines of, hey, you know, we're almost ready to go, guys, or something, but, you know, we haven't heard anything, so it's really silent out there. All right, so they went over the cargo system a little bit, and the way that it distributes or spreads out the cargo in the ships. It was interesting. To me, it looked like a bunch of small, I don't know, for lack of better words,
tackle boxes.
Yeah, tackle boxes or shoe boxes. I was thinking shoe boxes that you stack up in an area, and it reminded me also a little bit of a Grand Theft Auto's warehouses. You know, like to a degree, like when you're as they start to get full, you start to see more and more boxes stacked up and things like that. Of course, if you're putting vehicles and things in there, you're limiting that space, and I wonder if you're going to have more direct input, like exactly how those boxes are stacked within that. So you can, because if you've got an odd shaped item in there, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is, are all the boxes going to be this, like these small little things? Because that doesn't make sense to me. Some of these things you're going to be shipping are going to be much larger than that, or at least bulkier than that.
They said there was 3 different types of boxes, so it could just be that they only did the animation for one as a test run.
I guess that's possible. It makes sense to start with something.
And as far as like oddly shaped things, I imagine there's gonna be like a square grid around them. So if you like park a dragonfly in there, you can't like stack boxes up and then over the seat or something. They have to be stacked a certain way.
Make little archways.
Yeah. Have it parked in the middle, and then have it on both sides go up, and then it makes a bridge over the top for stability.
Yeah. No, it doesn't sound like it's going to be anything that complex, but it's good to see how they're approaching this starting method. And but I'm really curious, though, how much control we're going to have of that actual layout, or if it's going to be automated. All right, and the Anvil Terrapin is finalizing its gray box phase and moving to final art, and it looks amazing. It's nice to see they kept all the animations on the armor plating. That was kind of a concern of mine after the Vanguard, were basically all those wonderful animations that they had shown for like the turret retracting and then the armor closing up over the turret, and you know, and all these little parts that would retract and go in and out. Basically, were stripped off the model. I was kind of concerned that the Terrapin would basically
give them time. They can still screw it up.
Well, it looks really good. Well, they're in the phase of animation, and you can see the animations. It's pretty safe to say that they're going to be going through with it at this point.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll believe when it's in your hangar.
Yeah, that's probably a pretty safe thing to say too. Of course, we've had animations taken away, aka button presses, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about those.
Yeah, so it looks like a great ship. It's still scheduled to come out, I think, right around 3.1, but I'm patient. I can wait. All right, and the main crux of Around the Verse, of course, was serialized variables. And if you have not seen Around the Verse this week, I would highly recommend watching this, even if you're not a tech guy, even if you're not a networking guy, and I'm not, and I found this utterly fascinating. It really seems like they found a way to super condense the data to only send what's needed in only particular sections of what's needed, kind of like the ultimate zip file for data. And they were able, in some instances, to lower the amount of data needing to be sent by 80%. Now that's a huge deal. You see, Star Citizen, one of the big complaints people have, it doesn't matter what your rig is, if you've got a monster or if you've got a potato. The thing is that you're going to get anywhere from around 15 to 30 frames per second on a full server. And that's because of the network code. It's nothing, well, with exception, of course, of the potato factor. But if you have a really good rig, you're going to be getting about the same frame rate as everyone else, except with, like, you're the only guy on there with a couple others just late at night or whatever. Which was my early experience early on. I work nights, so I'm up at night. So when I play at night, there's not a lot of people on. So my perspective on that was a little bit different. But anyway, so when you get a full server on a normal day and you're getting 15 to 30 frames a second, it's frustrating for a lot of people because it's harder to get those pips to line up. There's the aim. There's a lot of it is really a matter of miscommunication and desync between what you're fighting. And with the ability to cut a lot of this data out, and also with the container system, I think we're going to see a massive change. And that's honestly, even more than the planets, what I'm most interested in seeing in 3.0. The plague we've had in the persistent universe, the fact that you can be in Yella, out in the asteroid field, and the game's trying to basically tell you what's happening to a vending machine out on a station that's being pushed around because it doesn't differentiate, it doesn't split that up. It's been a real mess for, I think, everyone trying to test out the game in general. And the ability to have, I think, a much smoother frame rate everyone will be able to give more accurate, or at least better feedback on flight model, characteristics, bugs, all sorts of things once we get rid of that big elephant in the room. Now, I know that my brother really got into the around the verse this week, especially the serialized variable part. And I know that you really liked it, Lightning.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually been to classes about networking and kind of that hardware kind of side of things. So some of it was like, yeah, I understand what they're trying to do. And I don't know programming, but I've looked at enough program code and messed with things. Like I've done very basic mods. And by mods, I mean not like a 3D mod, but like adding different things into a game, like, oh, and your character can be older now, very, 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 very basic stuff, and that requires basic understanding of code. So when they talk about how they're stripping things out, it's like, okay, that kind of makes sense, and that makes sense, and then it's like, oh yeah, I know what he's talking about here. But I mean, I don't understand it on a huge level. I mean, yeah, the task that they have in front of them, the amount of stuff that's, yeah, it's just huge. So when they start breaking it down into basically like, just ignore all that and just look at this one example of code here and what has to be transferred. If you send the entire thing, it's this amount. If you cut it down to this, well, it has to process that, and then it has to send that out, and then they kind of broke it all down, so it's really easy to understand.
And the great thing about the serialized variables is that basically with the setup they've created, where before all these different things had to be manually coded in for what was going to be transmitted over. With serialized variables, it creates it automatically. Once the people create the object or whatever's going to go into the game, there's certain parameters that are set up by the program, and what that does is it eliminates human error from the equation, which is, as you have more and more items and more things to relay about the data, the more that you have human hands in there setting up the code, the more of a nightmare it gets to be for bug fixing it. But this takes that completely out of their hands and just makes it an automated system. All right, and before we get into the main subject of discussion, just want to go ahead and show you some pictures here. And this is a little community spotlight, and I'll go ahead and leave a link for that down below. I kind of like these. So for those of you who like to have little Star Citizen images and things you can use in other kind of productions, this is really done well, and yeah, snag them for yourself. All right, so I want to kind of get into the meat and potatoes of what I've been kind of thinking about this week. Now, I kind of keep my eyes on the forums, and there's been a lot of
forum hawk.
Very much so. And I've been noticing kind of a heated, at least an increase in the heat on the debate between the idea of PvP or forced PvP in the PvE community, and a lot of the feelings that are in there. It's very emotional, very base discussion, and having come from basically starting in the PC world, from when PvP, let's put it this way. I had dial-up modem and Doom, and I called my friend's computer so we could kill each other. That's how far back I go for the online PvP. And
don't forget about Thieves Online.
Yeah. All of it. So, I mean, I've been doing PvP for a long time. It's only recently, within the last, last 2 or 3 years, I haven't really been...
Oh, it's been more than that. We stopped playing, like, when Star Trek Online PvP started blowing up, which was like 3 years ago or something. Just being a big pile of garbage.
Well, yeah, but we did other things after that. We did World of Tanks, and we did, a World of Wars. So I mean, just recently, it hasn't really been a focus for me, and the reason is that I've kind of moved into the realm of I enjoy helping people more. I used to be big about just going out there and attacking everybody and everything, and honestly, I didn't like who it made me as a person. I was I get very argumentative, as anyone who knows anything about me whatsoever.
Ultra competitive as well.
Yeah, and it's a side of me that I honestly hate. I hate that side of me. It happens in the forum boards. It happens here. I get like battle mode, and I hate that side of myself. It's a side that I don't want to embrace anymore. Yeah, I had it years. I used to teach martial arts many years ago, and I got the same kind of thing. I do tournaments. Didn't care about doing the forums. All I cared about was the fighting. That was all I did. That's all I cared about. So the thing is that side of me is not something I wanted to embrace. So nowadays, of course, having work and not being in school and having doing things like with this channel, the time that I have to spend in gaming, I don't want to spend being jumped on or ganked by people who will have absolutely no interest in what I want to do. And I understand all PvPers out there aren't gankers. I get that, but there's a certain sense of honor when you go into battle. Like, hey, if you're going, let's go back to the old days. It's like a duel. The two people knew they were going to be fighting each other. You stepped into the ring, and like if I was going to go into Arena Commander and they say, hey, I don't want a PvP, but I'm an Arena Commander, that'd be pretty naive, right? I mean, I just went into a PvP match looking for PvP. But the thing is that there's a lot of people, they have families, they have children, they have all this stuff going on in life, and they may only have a couple hours a week to play the game. And so they log in, and they're just going to do a quick cargo run, or maybe connect with a couple people they know, and then got to go mow the lawn or whatever. And they jump in, and suddenly they're just getting jumped on and pounded on by everybody, or whoever's in the general.
They fly out of their hangar, and 16 Auroras crash into them.
Yeah, or something like that. So I think this is why it's very important that the slider bar does exist. Now, I understand that there will always be an element of PvP there. And in fact, if you go into risky zones, that you will always be opening yourself up for that. But that becomes a conscious choice. That becomes, I'm willing to risk this, or I'm aware of the situation. I think maybe just as having come from the PvP experience, having been that person for a long time, to all the fellow PvPers out there who are maybe still in that phase and maybe eventually moving over to looking forward to being more cooperative based, like working to help people as opposed to just blow them up. I know it's the internet. I know you can get away with anything. I know you can say anything. I know you can do anything. But I don't know, the code of honor, man. We gotta have some sort of code of honor. If you, I'm trying to think how I should put this without coming out like a total prick. I mean, no, seriously, because it's a tough subject. For example, here's a basic. Once again, using this as a reference because it's something I play a lot, and in a sense, it's going to be a similar kind of environment to a degree. Grand Theft Auto 5. I will go on servers where it's like you have these shards, so to speak, the same way that Star Citizen would to an extent. You go on some, nobody bothers one another. Everyone is just like, hey, what's up? Hey, I'm doing missions. Cool. All right, have fun. Yeah, okay. And then you go in the other ones, and you step outside your building.
It's World War III.
It's World War III. You get shot by, your Harrier flies by, hits you in the face with 5 missiles. You respawn. He comes by and strafes you with machine guns. You stand up again. A tank runs you over. You know, you're like, what the hell? You
Cops
can't
everywhere.
You
ruined
can't.
cars.
Yeah, you can't even get into the menu to switch servers because every time you die, it kicks you out of the menu. So you're getting killed so fast and so often that you can't even get off the server. And so you have these extremes that are there, and it's an environment that's there because Rockstar forces it on people. If you want to do certain things, you have to basically.
You have to play in our open world.
You have to play in open world unless you know certain ways around it or have the ability to get around it. But the thing is that it's a big source of frustration for a lot of players. And if someone wants a pure PvE server or whatnot, I think it should be an option. But, big but here, there should be a financial penalty involved. For example, yes, we're going to have the slider that will always reduce the amount of chance that you'll have of bumping into a player. But let's say you want it off. You want no chance whatsoever of ever having to fight another human being because you just got done a week-long work. You don't want to deal with this. You flip that switch.
In GTA terminology, it's everyone is in passive mode.
Right. And you just flip that switch, and now you say you're taking a 25% financial hit to missions or whatever, payouts, rewards, whatever, but you're like, I'm basically, I can be killed by NPCs, that's fine. Players, they can't ram me, they go through me or whatever. You're basically in a place that you're just dealing with the environment, the E and the PvE. And I think that should be an option because when you look at the amount of, in PvP, PvPers are 5 to 10% of most games base, and that's if there is a PvE side to a game. Now, obviously, games like World of Tanks, Armored Warfare, things like that. Well, Armored Warfare is an exception because there actually is a PvE.
World of Warships.
Those kind of games which are PvP based.
Planet side.
Yeah, you're gonna have 100% of your players being PvP, but the second you get the option, I mean, I guess go back to Armored Warfare again. People like in the U.S. almost don't PvP at all in that game. They do the cooperative, but in Europe, it's almost exclusively PvP. So it's like it's a different perspective. It's different cultures. Different people want different things. So while I'm all for the slider, and I think the slider is a great idea, and I do hope they go with it. I think that for those dads on the weekend that just want to get out there and do a cargo run or whatnot and don't want to be ganked. It's the same kind of thing to a degree that Elite Dangerous did, where you can set up your own private servers. You don't have to deal with anybody, but you still affect the economy. You still interact with all the NPCs. You still have access to all the missions. You're just
like ghost mode.
You're just like ghost mode, and I think that's perfectly fine. And I don't think it's them being Care Bears. I don't think it's them being not being manly enough or whatever. You see a lot of insults thrown around. Unfortunately, the PvP community and the PvE community fire at each other.
Oh, bunch of pussies! Oh, come fight me, bro.
Yeah. But sometimes people, they just want to relax, and just respect that. If the guy you're doesn't want to fight you or doesn't have any interest in it, maybe he's already been down that road. Maybe he's been there, done that. Maybe he just has different goals. Maybe he just doesn't have the time. So try to be a little bit kinder to one another. Understand other person's perspective on this. And PvP is not the end-all, be-all of everything. In fact, it's the smallest part of Star Citizen. It's what we had to start off with as a test bed with Arena Commander, but there's no way that it's even going to be more than 5 or 10% of the value of the whole. So kind of take a look at those different arguments or different posts you have in the forums. If you're participating in them, either side, try to understand, I guess, each other a little bit more. I think you're going to find most PvPers are a little bit younger, maybe. hot-blooded, ready to get out there, kick some ass, take some names. Most PvEers are probably a little bit older. You know, they've been there, done it already. You got, you know, both the communities, you guys have things you can share with one another. I bet you a lot of PvEers were once PvPers, and vice versa. So, you know, maybe
think about if you were in here's a situation for you. If you're a PvE guild and you've got a bunch of haulers, and then there's this mission that opens up, and it's like, we want you to haul 500 anvils. The anvils are in request for this planet, but this planet's basically in a war zone, and you might be like, oh well, we would like to hire like a really good PvP guild to fly escorts for us, because you know it's a lawless zone. You know, there's probably gonna be players there, and so you know you're paying them to help escort you, and you know odds are they're gonna get into a fight with other players, and then they can have that experience that they're looking for, of that human on human, the best prey or whatever, that adrenaline rush kind of combat.
All right, and I guess a little note, and I haven't verified this, but I think this might be true. Bayor of Red looks like he might actually be working for CIG now, helping them with the flight mechanics, the flight model, all that stuff along the lines, and that's to me is actually great news, because while we don't agree with everything, I think I agree with about 90% of the way that he talks about approaching things when it comes to flight. I think our only disagreement was, and he had posted on one of my videos about the automation post that I put up. But the thing is I'm for automation of gimbals. And the thing is, I'm not married to automation of gimbals or manual control of gimbals. I was just I throw out ideas. And that's what it is. It's just basically the arena of ideas. As long as gimbals are in the game, all I'm trying to do is say, hey, here's some options that might work that lets everyone use them equally. Now, whatever they come up with, I don't care what it is. As long as it allows everyone to come up with things equally, I'm good. I'm good. I'm absolutely good. Whether it's manual, whether it's automated, I don't care. But Bayor is also not much of a fan of ballistic penetration. Well, and now, let's face it, Lighting and I, we're not fans. We're not fans of ballistic penetration. So it's good that if this is true, having him there to give that kind of feedback is wonderful. And if it is, I'd have to say, Bayor, congratulations. Thank you for giving your 2 cents in there. And also, he talked about how different ships should fly differently. It's been a big thing of his as well. Like the Xeon Scout should fly much differently than say, a Saber or Hornet. I couldn't agree more. I think ships need to fly differently. I think they have different functions and roles, and that's because they're built differently. They have different focuses. So if these things start to come into play in Star Citizen, I'm going to be a much happier camper. And I think a lot of the community will be too. All right, guys. Well, that's about everything for this week's BlastCast. I hope everything came through okay. We had some technical difficulties. We normally use a TeamSpeak server on the we've been using for quite some time to record, and it was shut down. So we are using the free, just log in and connect to their test server and hoping that this comes out okay in the audio quality. So I couldn't set filters or things like that. So anyway, guys, we will go ahead and catch you either next week or on the Citizens Corner. I think we have enough questions this week, though. We'll probably be able to do a Citizens Corner, but feel free to leave more questions down below, because
all of the questions forever.
Exactly. All right, guys, we will catch you on whatever video is next time.
Bye-bye.